Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. We are excited to have Inovia's Senior Application Consultant, Jenny Hollingsworth, here today. She'll be presenting the new pricing experience for Business Central. I know you're all eager to get started with this presentation, so before we begin, as a reminder, we are recording this webinar and we'll be posting it to our on-demand webinar library for you to review and share with anyone. If you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to type them into the questions box and we will answer them at the end of the session during our Q&A. Now I'm going to turn it over to Jenny to kick off the presentation. Here you go, Jenny.
Thanks, Joe. Good morning, everyone. As Joe stated, we're going to talk about the brand new pricing experience for Business Central that is now available. Just a little bit about myself. If you don't know me, I'm Jenny Hollingsworth. I'm a senior application consultant here at Inovia. I've been at Inovia almost 17 years, I think, in October. So I've been here quite a while. And prior to that, I was at another NAV partner for about 10 years. So all in all, about 27 years experience with the NAV and Business Central products. So today, this is basically what our agenda is going to be. I want to talk about the release plan for the new pricing experience, features and functionality, how it may differ from the existing sales prices and sales line discounts. How do we set them up? How do we work with price lists? And also, what are our options to update those price lists? So those are the four areas we'll look at today on the pricing experience. All right, so let's first talk about the release plan. So back in 2020, it's called Release Wave 1 of Business Central. They introduced an extend price calculation, and that was basically gave developers the ability to easily hook into sales pricing to be able to modify it. So that's basically what they did it in Wave 1. In 2020 Release Wave 2, they introduced a new streamlined process for managing prices and discounts, and that's called Sales Price List. We're going to be looking at Sales Price Lists, but on the purchasing side, they've also updated that for Vendor Price List. Works the same as the sales side. Currently, this new pricing experience using Sales Price Lists is optional. However, the current release date where it will be required and no longer optional is Q2 of 2023. Now, Microsoft has changed that a few times. So whether they bump that out any further, we don't know. But I do recommend anyone who is currently implementing Business Central or setting it up, or maybe re-implementing from NAV to Business Central, that to go directly to the new sales price experience, just so you're up to date and ready for when that the current sales price list and sales line discount structure is no longer available. All right, so new features and functionality. For those of you currently on NAV or Business Central, you know there's two screens for pricing and discounts, sales prices and sales line discounts. The new sales pricing experience has combined the pricing and discounts together into one page called a sales price list. Now, on that sales price list, there's a couple new features they've implemented. One is an all items discount. That wasn't really possible in existing NAV and Business Central on the sales line discounts page, unless you set up every single item with a 5% discount. Now in the new sales price list, we'll show you it's real simple to set up an all items discount for a specific percentage. If you're using sales price lists for jobs, again, this is for jobs only, there is a unit cost plus a cost factor to calculate the prices. But again, that's currently only if you're using jobs pricing. The second feature is to update pricing. They've implemented a new price worksheet, which is different than the old sales price worksheet. And there's also a new prices overview page where you can update and review pricing. All right, so how would you enable this new pricing experience? Because again, right now it is not mandatory, not required that you use it. But let's say you want to use it. How would we enable it? All right, in Business Central, there's a page called Feature Management. So if you do a search for Feature Management, you'll see a new feature called Feature Update, New Sales Price Experience. And in the column enabled for, you would change that from none to all users. Now, I have this specific screen up here for a reason. It's because, very important, once you enable this feature, you cannot turn it off again. Okay, so once it's enabled, you now have to use the new sales price list. We would need to create a new company to go back to using the old sales price and line discount pages. So again, very important. If you want to test it out, make sure you test it out in a test environment with a test copy of your company. When you click Enable for all users and click Next, it asks you if you want to set up default price lists. So what that does is if you turn that on, it's going to take your current sales prices and your sales line discounts that you have set up, and it will convert them to the price list page. I go back and forth on whether I like this feature or not. It really depends on how you want to set up your price lists. We're going to go through two different options for setting up price lists. One is using just one price list for everything, so a default price list, and one is to use a price list per grouping or per customer. Again, we'll go through that in a bit. We'll show you the differences. If you're just going to use a default price list, I recommend turning this on. If not, I recommend turning it off and just using a tool like Rapid Start to convert your pricing and discounts. Whether you have that on or off, you have to accept the data update and click Next. And that will turn on the new sales price lists. From that point forward, all of your documents will be using the new price list and not the existing sales price and sales line discount pages. All right. I'm going to head over, let's go into Business Central and just get into looking at the setups and reviewing that sales price list structure. All right, so I'm in Business Central, and let's first look at the price list structure. So what does it look like? So I'm gonna just do a search for sales price lists and just go to my default price list. All right, as you can see here, the sales price list, it combines discounts and pricing onto one page. Price lists have a header. All of the fields on the header here are the defaults for the price list lines. Okay, so we have a header and then we have the lines. There's two ways to set up a price list. One is, as you see here, using a default price list, and two is having multiple price lists set up, possibly by customer grouping or by customer number. All right, so let's first look at one default price list. So all of our pricing, all of our discounts are going to be on this one price list. My code here is S0001. All right, so what do you need to know if you're just going to use a default price list? Well, you need to pay attention to a few fields on the header. One, description. I just named mine default price list. Two, the assign to type. This is whether I'm going to assign it to a specific customer or a specific group. If we're going to use just one default price list, we'll just leave this set to all customers. All right. View columns 4 gives you the option of, are you setting up pricing and discounts, just pricing, or just discounts? All right. If you're using both, and this is your default price list, we'll leave it at price plus discount. This will change the way the columns look on the price list lines. So if you have it set just pricing, it's gonna hide all of the discount fields that you do not need. Same with vice versa. If you show just discounts, it'll hide the pricing. But if you're using both, of course, it's going to show both your pricing and discount columns. If you're using one default price list for all your pricing, no matter who the customer is, you also need to make sure you have line defaults, allow updating defaults turned on, because that's going to allow you to change the information down on the lines and not just use the header fields here. So you'll have to make sure that's turned on as well. All right. So when that allow updating defaults is turned on, what that will allow you to do is modify the assigned to type, so it can be multiple options, the assigned to number, and also on the line, whether that line defines a price, a discount, or both. Now, if you decide to use one default price list for all customers and not set up multiple, again, we'll go through multiple in a bit so you can see the differences. You want to make sure on sales and receivables setup, on the pricing tab here, we want to make sure that the default price list code is populated. This is used for pricing updates in the price worksheet. So if you're using one default price list, we need to make sure this is populated. All right, so that's if we have one default price list for all pricing and discounts. The other option is to have multiple price lists by customer or customer group. So if you see here, this is my sales price list page. I have price list 2 through 5. I've split them out more. I like this better because I think it's prettier and things are, separated a bit more. It's not all mumble jumble in one default price list. But what it really comes down to, which we'll discuss in a little bit on how you want to set these up, is how you update your pricing, because it's different whether you're using default price lists or multiple price lists. So here I have one price list set up for retail customer group, one for wholesale, and then on top of that, I have customer specific pricing as well. All right, so let's look at one of the price lists here. Let's look at this customer. All right, this is the customer specific pricing, and you'll notice I have allow updating the defaults on the line turned off. So you do not see the assigned to type, the assigned to number, starting and ending dates. All of those fields do not display on the lines because they're set up on the header in this instance. So it's only showing columns on the lines that can be modified. All right, what are some of the key fields to pay attention to on the new sales price list? One is currency code. Keep in mind that a price list can only have one currency code. So if you have, for example, US dollars and Canadian dollars, the Canadian dollars have to be on their own separate price list. They cannot be combined with US dollars. So again, keep that in mind, one price list per currency code at least. A new feature I had talked about earlier is being able to set up an all items discount. All right, you'll notice down below here on the lines, I have the product type set to item and I have no product number, it's blank. That's how we set up all items. So the product type with a blank product number. And I gave it a discount of 5%. So all items for this customer will get a discount of 5%. However, if you notice, item 1908-S for the London swivel chair, this gets a unit price of $250 with no discount. So they'll get the sales price of $250 plus a 5% discount. Whereas if you look up here at the Athens desk, if they order a minimum of 10, they get a 12% discount. Well, as you all might be aware, in Nav and Business Central, it's always been that the customer gets the lowest discount percent possible. So the Athens desk really falls into all items, which is a 5% discount. Well, and it falls into, if they order more than 10, a 12% discount. So it will give them the better of the two discounts, giving them the 12% discount. So mainly here, I just wanted to show the new functionality where you can do an all item discount. All right, what other fields here are important? The defines field, if it's price plus discount, it will bold the price and discount fields, showing you that you can populate them. If it's set to discount only, you'll notice the price fields are not bold and they're non-editable. And you can only update the line discount fields. And then of course, if we had just pricing, it would be the reverse. You could update, and the bold would be the unit price, and the discount percent fields would be non-editable and non-bold. All right, so once you set up a price list, you have a status field, and there are 3 statuses. When you're setting up the price list would be in draft, a draft status, which means that it's not active and it cannot be edited. So if you were to do any sales documents for this specific customer, it would not even look at this pricing because it's in draft status. If it's an active status, normally pricing cannot be edited, and then pricing is taken into account on sales documents if it's an active status. And I'll talk about what I said. Normally, you cannot edit the active in a moment here. But then you have the inactive status, which means you're no longer using this price list. And again, it will not be used on sales documents. So I mentioned if you're in a status of active, normally you cannot modify the pricing. But there's a slight caveat to that. There's a setup feature on sales and receivables setup. To allow editing of active prices. If you have that turned on, you can edit the line discounts and the pricing on an active price list. All right. Now, why would you want to do this? Okay. You'd want to allow for this. Maybe you're making changes to pricing and your order entry team is still entering sales orders. Well, if you turn this into draft status and they're doing sales order entry, all the other pricing and discounts are not active for that customer. So it's not even going to suggest this pricing. So if you turn that status to draft, make your pricing changes during that draft time, if they're entering sales orders, it's not looking at this pricing at all. And I think of like, what if you walk away from your desk, I walked away, forgot about it, it's 3 hours later, right? Oh yeah, keep updating my price list and put it back to active, right? So I guess my recommendation is you allow editing of active prices. That way, if you do change a price, it's an active state, okay? One thing to note is that pricing will not be used until you verify the price lists. So when you turn a price list from draft to active status, it automatically verifies all your lines and does all the checks to make sure everything looks okay. But if you allow editing of active price lists, you have to do the verify manually. So you can see the line I changed here is in red, and I actually have to click verify lines and you notice it says all price lists are now verified, okay? One of the other things the verify lines does, and again, it will do this when you change your status from draft to active as well, is checks for duplicates. So if it finds any duplicate pricing and discounts across all price lists, then it'll go ahead and warn you of those duplicates and make you resolve the issues. So I'm just for an easy example for this webinar, I'm going to go ahead and just use the same price list, same item. And now here you can see two lines with pricing that's 125 and pricing that's 150. So if I activate this price list, it's doing the checks. It also does this upon verify lines. So here you can see, oh, I have two lines for the same customer, same item and I have conflicting unit prices. So which one do I want to keep? All right. It will show you which price list those prices are on or discount issues. Again, mine's on the same price list just to show this example. But then I have to choose which line to remove. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the 150. That's an error. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. It says, do you want to update the status? I'm going to click yes. And now you'll notice on the pricing lines that it deleted the pricing for the pedestal at 150. So it does do duplicate checks across all price lists. All right, so that's a little bit about the sales price list. All right, what are our pricing update options? I mentioned there's a few of them. We could create a new price list and copy the lines from another price list. There's a new update feature on an item card if you're just updating a specific item price or discount. We have a new prices overview page, which shows you all pricing and discounts across all items. And then we have a price worksheet, which really it easily allows you to update a default price list. But when you're using multiple price lists, it's a little trickier. I don't know that you would use that price worksheet in that instance. So why don't we just kind of look at a couple of the options. All right, so if we go to our customer price list, you'll notice this price list is for customer 10,000 with a starting and ending date of 2022. Well, let's say we want to create a 2023 price list. We're going to copy the price list and update it. Okay. So what we can do is we can set up a new price list for customer 10,000. Going to be price and discounts, and this one is going to be for 2023. And then we can just copy lines from that existing price list. So it allows you to add an adjustment factor. So maybe you want to increase your pricing by 10%, for an example. You can do that. Maybe you want a rounding method. So if it comes up to be $23.99, you want it rounded to $24. Those are all options when you're copying existing pricing. So it'll go ahead, copy in that pricing from the old price list and allow you to modify it. Okay, so that's one way. That's using a more manual way to copy an existing price list. All right, I'm just going to delete this one so I can reuse that as an example. What if you wanted to change just an item? You wanted to update just one item. So I'm going to go ahead and look at the Athens desk. And click on pricing and discounts. And here I can see sales prices, or I can click on sales line discounts. All right, so from here, For the Athens desk, it is going to list all of the pricing that is in every price list out there for this Athens desk. And from here, I can update the unit price. And again, if I do update the unit price, I'm going to have to click verify lines to do all the verifications. If I don't verify, it will not use them on the price list. And again, the line will be in red until it's verified. So that's an easy visual to know if it's verified or not. Okay, so I clicked on sales prices, and you can see I'm just seeing the prices from the price list. And if I click on sales discounts, it'll show me all of my discounting as well, and I can update discounts from here. So this screen makes it easy to update if you're just doing one item at a time. All right. The third option is a prices overview page. So if we just do a search, I'm going to go to prices overview. So on this page, it shows you an overview of all pricing and discounts across all price lists. So on the header, it gives you the ability to place any filters that you want to review and update pricing. So from here, you can update pricing, you can add new lines, and of course, you have to verify the lines after you're done adding or adjusting, right? So we need to update the pricing by verifying the lines and checking for duplicates. All right, so this is the third option where you can update your pricing. Fourth option is the price worksheet. So I'm going to do a search. All right, the price worksheet at its current state, it works very well if you're using just one default price list. Okay. If you're using multiple price lists, I feel like the worksheet is a little bit trickier. Okay. So if I do suggest lines, and you can see that I can filter on a specific product type. I can filter on a specific item. Here it allows me to set a new minimum quantity, add an adjustment factor if I want to increase the price. It allows me to do all of that information. But notice when I populate the worksheet, there's only, this price list code is not editable. So it auto-populates with that default price list code that we set up in sales and receivable setup. So it makes it real easy to adjust pricing and discounts if you're using the default price list option. All right. If you're using multiple price lists, I'm going to go ahead and delete the lines here. Suggest lines does not work, but you could copy lines. So I could copy lines from, let's say, that customer price list. And copy as new lines would have to be set to no. All right. You'll notice if copy as new lines is set to no, it fills in my same price list code. So this allows me to update or change pricing on that one price list. But what I can't do in this worksheet is copy this to a new price list. So in my, let's just say for an example, again, I have my 2022 pricing here, and I want to create a new price list for 2023 pricing. Okay, I don't want to use the same price list. I can't do that here. If I delete these lines and I do copy lines. I'm going to choose that same price list, and I say copy as new lines and click OK. When it creates the new lines for the new price list, it automatically populates that default price list set up in Sales and Receivables setup. So if I'm going to create new lines for any pricing or discounts to a price list, it's always going to go to that default price list. I can't change that. So that's why I mention two options, right? You can have one default price list with all of your pricing and discounts on it, and this price worksheet works very well. Or if you want to separate it, let me just show you that screen one more time. Like you see here, then you would have to, using that price worksheet, you'd have to just, for new pricing, you'd have to modify the existing price list. And it really depends if you want to do that or not. So we really just have to take into account how you want to do your price updates. We showed three options. Again, you can copy price lists, you can change it item by item on the item card, you can change it from that price overview screen, and then finally that price worksheet. Whether Microsoft will expand that price worksheet with more functionality in the future, I don't know. I hope so, but currently that is the functionality of that price worksheet. A fifth option I didn't really mention here, which I know quite a few customers like to do, is you could pull out the pricing to Rapid Start through using a Rapid Start configuration package and set up new pricing that way. Copy it out, change it, maybe create new price list numbers, and then pull it back in. The biggest thing I've found with that is when you pull it back in, you can't pull it in with a status of active, right? Because it needs to run through all that code validation to verify lines, make sure there's not duplicates, etc. So if you're pulling in, let's say you have quite complex pricing and you're pulling in maybe 50 different price lists, you will have to manually go into each price list. And if you did pull it in as active, you'd have to verify lines, or you would have to, if you pulled it in as a draft, you'd have to change it to active status to have it do that validation. So you'd really have to go through each price list one by one and do that activation or verification. One of the other questions I've gotten in the past too is with Business Central, you can send pages to Excel, modify them, and send them back. So edit in Excel. That does not currently work with price lists. So if that you're looking as an option for that, that is not an option right now. All right. So that is my overview of the new sales price list experience. I can open it to see if anybody has any questions.
Okay, it looks like, oh wait, we did have one question come in here. It says, we have more than 1,000 customers with price lists. This is not very efficient.
Yeah, I mean, if you have quite a few customer price lists, we'd really have to determine if you want to set that all up in one default price list or have 1,000 separate price lists.
Oh, they actually have their hand raised too, so I'm going to go ahead and unmute them and see if they would like to elaborate here.
Sure, I'll bring Nav back up just in case.
Speaking.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. This is Nels Ellenbrook.
Yes,
Bro.
that's correct. I work for Caplux in Europe. And what I said, we have over 1,000 customers, and that will be much more in the future. Many of them have their own list pricing. So if we have to verify every customer, list price. And even what I understood from the rapid start, we have to add an additional column for the codes. Well, this will be very painful for us. It will be very time consuming. And we need to have it. You can talk to Annette and Marlene, because they are setting it up for us in the sandbox, as this is the only way it will work with CRM. So this will be a pain.
Yeah, I mean, we'd have to look at, I really think with each customer, we'll have to look at how you want to update pricing and how it can be made easier.
Yeah, because what we do now is we have an open price list per customer with a starting date and an empty end date. So if we forgot to load the new list price for the next year, then we still have a valid price. And we do it with rapid start, and it's quite easy. You can export it, fill in the end date and new start date, and it for the next year, and it works. And I think the another issue that I saw is we create a list price per year. So we have start and an ending date.
Yep.
But for example, for 2023, we want to create it in November this year. So we have a list price that starts on the 1st of January 2023. But that list price cannot be active if that customer already has an active price list, isn't it?
No, it could be active. It just won't use that pricing until the starting date.
Okay, but what happens? Because sometimes customers place an order for November for delivery in February or March, and then they have to use the new price, the new list price.
Well, that would be the same whether it's the new pricing experience or the existing pricing experience.
Really?
It uses the document date from the sales order to determine the pricing. It doesn't use the shipping date. Yeah. And again, on the header, starting and ending dates, these are defaults. You do not have to fill them in. For a customer, let me just get to a specific customer here. If you have allow updating of defaults, and these are blank, you can make these blank, then I can have here, the Athens desk is 275 from January 2022 to December 2022. Right underneath it, I could have, okay, it's 250 from January 2023 to December 2023. Okay, so if you allow the updating of defaults on the header, you can use this like kind of like the old pricing structure, right? Where everything's
okay. And in the new system with the rapid start, do we now have to load two tables like the sales price list header and lines?
Yep, it's a priceless header and priceless lines.
Okay, this is not funny. Okay, that's good to know.
One thing I've thought about, because I've looked at this quite a bit, and this is new to all of us, right? Like, yep. Microsoft just came out with this, and I'm just now getting customers who are implementing it. Because I have I'm currently working with a lot of NAV customers that are re-implementing the Business Central. So of course we're redoing a lot of things, but I've thought about, and I haven't had a chance yet, just to talk to a developer about a mass verify lines. Where you could just import them all and then click verify lines, and it would verify all of the price list at once instead of doing it one by one.
You're not going to do that 1,000 times.
Yeah. No, I agree. I found that when I was actually setting this up for a customer, they had 100 different price lists, and I did rapid start and just marked them all active, and then I'm like, why isn't any of the documents using that pricing? And then I'm like, oh, okay. So I had to manually click verify lines.
Microsoft should bring a solution for that. If you do it via rapid start or something like that, that it would be verified automatically.
Right, and like I said, because it's not required until Q2 of 2023, that doesn't mean they aren't in the works of something either.
No, that's I agree about that part, but in our case, we are using CRM as well,
Right.
And Innovia has decided that we are going to use the new sales functionality. Otherwise, it will not work with CRM.
Right. So you know what? I'm gonna send in a little email to Microsoft and ask about that, like why. See if I can get a why and see if there's something coming up. And you're working with Marlene, right? Who's on our my team.
Yeah,
So
Marlene, Annette, and those two. Marlene is doing the pricing.
yeah. So I talk to her, you know, every day, so I can
good.
have her get an answer to you.
Don't mention my name, please.
Okay.
She knows this. You can do that.
No,
okay. Looking forward to the answer.
Okay, sounds good. Any other questions? I know it was a lot to go through in a short period of time. My main thing on this webinar was to kind of show you the differences between the old and the new pricing experience and the two options for setting it up. And I truly can't give you a best practice answer which way is better yet because it's so new, but I'm assuming in the next few months here I'll have a better answer on best practice.
Okay, well, it looks like no other questions have come in, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up, unless you have anything else, Jenny?
No, just if anyone has any questions, feel free to shoot me an email. If you want detailed information on all the screens I went through too, it is on my blog on the Innovia website. I have everything we went through in detail with screenshots. So if you want a printout of that or something to go back to, go ahead and look at my pricing experience blog.
And we can send a link to that as well when we send out the video. So, okay, well, it looks like we don't have any more questions. So I want to thank Jenny for presenting today. I want to thank everyone on today's webinar. And if you're watching on demand, we thank you for taking the time to join us. And just a reminder, we have new training workshops for you and your team members to attend. Visit our training workshop page at innovia.com/workshops for more information and to register for the training workshop that best fits your role. And we also have more webinars coming up. Coming up on August 9th, we will have Dynamic Web presenting on, it's a Lunch and Learn webinar, and it's Trends for B2B E-commerce. You can check out our website for more of our upcoming webinars and events, and that's at innovia.com/events. And don't forget to check out our Innovia Conversation podcast with hosts Steve Wolse and Jeff Progolski. You'll find out all the different platforms to listen to them on our podcast page, and that's innovia.com/podcast. And while you're there, you can check out our podcast library and be sure to subscribe to receive notifications when new episodes air. Also, we have some conferences coming up, including DynamicsCon Live this September in San Antonio, Texas. For information about DynamicsCon Live and a list of all our upcoming conferences, head over to innovia.com/conferences. And I want to thank everyone again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on another Innovia webinar. Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you.
Have a good day.